I think I actually do want to take a look at this. It's the night Texas hit 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 60 degrees Celsius. Like, I know that's how hot places like Death Valley can get, among other places, but nah, this caught my eye because for a lot of like elementary school in particular, well, starting in like the 4th or 5th grade, I kind of developed a fascination with the weather that eventually turned into more just general science more than anything else. So, we should honestly look at more weather-related videos. I bet that would be a lot of fun, considering well, it's been a while since I've studied up on weather phenomena. I actually once had like a few like children's sort of informational picture books about the weather, and I remember rereading them more than once, but I am genuinely curious to see the night that Texas had hit 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 Celsius, during a thunderstorm by, it's either Swaggle Studios or Sweagle Studios, but this is my first time checking out this guy's channel. Be sure to check them out as well, and yeah. Okay, Brett, make sure you up those numbers. So let's go ahead and see how Texas acquired such a high temperature.
The date, June 15th, 1960.
Okay, so this was a while ago.
The location, the very small town of Copperell, Texas. It was a typical, beautiful summer evening. Skies were clear, and the temperature was a comfortable 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's how it starts. Well, it usually starts multiple ways. Like, one of the ways that you would know that a storm is coming is, like, during the morning, if the skies are, like, if there's, like, scattered clouds and it's, like, kind of red, and there's this little reddish tinge to them, then there's going to be a storm later. But if you see that same type of cloud covering at sunset, then it means that it's going to be nice weather the next day.
But a line of strong thunderstorms.
And then here we go, cumulonimbus rising.
Storms was forecasted to roll in through the middle of the night.
Yeah.
This was not something that was unusual.
Okay.
Central Texas and much of the plains in general encounter nocturnal thunderstorms all the
Yeah, given that Texas is like within the south of what we refer to as Tornado Alley, because that part of the U.S. has more tornadoes than any part of the entire world. Like, they're so common in the U.S. that's why we call it Tornado Alley. And it has to deal with the cold air from the Rocky Mountains interacting with the the cold, dry air of the Rocky Mountains interacting with the warm, moist air of the Gulf of Mexico. And that combination is a recipe for lots of thunderstorms and lots of tornadoes. That's not to say that tornadoes don't happen outside of the U.S. There have been plenty of instances in places like Europe, but the U.S., the Great Plains and Tornado Alley has lots of them. But we're not talking about a tornado. We're talking about immense heat.
The time during the summer. So nobody in town gave the upcoming thunderstorm much thought.
Right, because it's just a regular occurrence in this part of the U.S.
Down their children for the night and went to
Especially
bed.
during the summer.
As the storm passed over around midnight, everyone in town suddenly woke up. Was it a large bolt of lightning? No. Was it the sirens going off warning of an approaching tornado? No. It was actually a massive and sudden spike in temperature, according to those who witnessed the event.
I can only imagine what that must have felt like. I don't know, like, it's gotten, like, I have, like, experience where like, here in Ohio, it doesn't get that hot, but we've had, like, triple-digit Fahrenheit temperatures here before, and yes, they can be quite unbearable, but we also get some pretty low temperatures as well, especially that one year where a polar vortex came about, and it was like negative 15 degrees Celsius. I remember hearing a story of someone's dad trying to take out the trash or something like that, and then the cold was so bad that their eyes were tearing up, but then the tears ended up freezing. All the while, it was like that cold outside. So yeah, temperature is no joke.
In a matter of minutes, the temperature outside became extremely hot. Thermometers on buildings climbed all the way up until they maxed out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's how hot it gets in like some deserts. I mentioned Death Valley earlier.
Or 60 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
During the thunderstorm, something strange caused the temperature to rise by nearly 50 degrees.
What exactly happened? Like, I know that clouds can trap, like, heat and stuff. Like, sometimes whenever it's, like, cloudy, especially, like, in the transition, like, between, like, fall and, or spring or anything like that, I know that clouds can trap heat, so that when, like, the skies end up clearing out, sometimes the temperature gets lower, but I don't know. I want to see where this is going.
Only a few minutes. On top of the temperature spike, it was also extremely windy. And
Okay, the wind deserts can have sandstorms, yep.
people panicked. Parents
Sandstorms can be pretty dangerous, too.
covered their children with wet towels. Some rushed to underground cellars with
Oh my god, imagine.
cooler temperatures.
Yep. Whenever it comes to something like that, warm air rises, but cool air sinks. It's relatively cold in the basement where I'm live streaming from, and it's very cold outside. So yeah, and I know that when I go upstairs in the house, well, there's low visibility. Well, there's a number of reasons sandstorms are dangerous, but it's kind of hard to explain.
And some even thought,
But yeah, I know from experience, like whenever the heater is on here at home and I go upstairs, especially in one of the bathrooms, it tends to be very, very warm. And obviously down in the basement, it's very cold. So yeah, you'd want to go for the low ground in that case.
it was the end of the world. And this heat didn't just last for a few minutes.
Oh yeah, sandstorms can also be bad for like crops and infrastructure.
Noah stayed near 140 degrees for 4 sweltering hours.
4 hours of this heat.
It wouldn't be until 4 a.m. that the heat and the winds finally died down.
Oh my
The
God.
townsfolk were
Imagine if any infants were caught in this. That would be very bad for them, wouldn't it?
so affected by this heat thunderstorm, they called the event Satan's Storm.
Satan's Storm. The fitting name for something like that.
The next morning, the residents of Copperall were eager to find out what happened, so
Yeah.
they tuned in to
I'd be very curious too. Like this, like I mentioned the polar vortex earlier, or that happened a few years ago. We know what happened. Literally, yeah, it's in the name, polar vortex. It came from the North Pole and came so far south that it caused a lot of sub-zero temperatures.
the local news. What caused this freak heat storm? But to their surprise, nothing was mentioned about it on the news.
Really? So this was like a very localized event, wasn't it?
Interestingly, this heat burst thunderstorm thing only seemed to happen over the town of Copperall. No other towns or cities in Texas reported a similar temperature spike.
Nothing, huh?
This further added to the mystery. Now,
And that's a very small town. I bet you could walk around that whole place within an hour.
140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I highly doubt, given that the whole town bared witness and they seemed to all be like in contact with each other. There's no way that they could be faking it.
60 degrees Celsius is a crazy outside temperature. Keep in mind, the highest official temperature ever recorded on this planet, like anywhere ever, is 134 degrees Fahrenheit.
100, the Sandy Cheeks loves Texas. Yep, she wishes she was back in Texas. Really? So before that point, the highest recorded temperature was this.
Fahrenheit recorded in Death Valley,
Yeah, Death Valley. That's I mentioned that earlier. Death Valley is the hottest place on Earth.
California, on July 10th in 1913. So with this
And Death Valley, fun fact, Death Valley goes below sea level.
supposed heat wave thunderstorm actually happened,
It's a record-breaking storm.
like the townsfolk claim, it would be the highest temperature ever recorded.
Yeah.
So the question is, did this event actually happen? Well, surprisingly, the evidence suggests yes.
I bet it did. Because there's usually signs of something like that happening, or at least something that could be like left behind, but I don't really know that much about heat storms.
But before we get to that, this video is sponsored by Mint Mobile.
Mint Mobile. Okay, you guys can go ahead and check them out if you want, but...
To answer the question on whether this freak heat wave Satan storm actually occurred, we need to find some primary sources. And
now, my question is, did they have Doppler radar back in the 60s?
Eyewitness testimonies from the people who were actually there during the event. And honestly,
This happened in the 60s. I'm sure plenty of people... Well, if it's a small town like that, then... they'd be the only ones to bear witness.
Rather annoying aspect about this whole Satan's Storm weather event is that there really isn't much info about it online or anywhere. It, in many ways, just
looking for help finding a narrative of survivors of the Copperell, Texas Satan Storm.
Seems like a piece of Texas folklore. But we do have reports about the event taken around that time.
Yep.
There was one journalist who traveled to the town after the event, WBAP-TV's photojournalist Floyd Bright. Bright filmed the extreme wind damage and interviewed several eyewitnesses.
Oh, there was some wind damage as well?
I searched forever for this footage. YouTube, the Internet Archive. A lot of other people were looking for this footage too, so I thought for sure it was lost media. But I somehow was actually able to find this footage online.
Let's go.
It was in the North Texas University archives.
Okay.
How crazy is that? Anyway, I received...
It's always one of those things. Yeah, we looked at a lost media related video earlier, and now we're back to more lost media.
The footage, and here's what he captured. Now he starts off by filming various examples of strong wind damage.
Okay, so that's some of the obvious stuff. Obviously, wind can be very, very dangerous.
And the wind damage definitely was significant.
As you can see, wind damage causes lots of damage to property, and trees get knocked over, so it's no joke. Wind is like when it comes to a storm. Like, obviously, rain can cause flooding, and lightning can strike trees, and then, like, rain can become hail, and that can cause damage. But the wind is what you really gotta watch out for. And see, the tree is practically uprooted. And some of them fell, and some kid had to get their bunny. But of course, when you're in Tornado Alley, this is something that you just have to expect. Even though there are plenty of small towns across the Great Plains that still get demolished by powerful tornadoes. And here, destruction of property.
Winds were quite strong. I mean, look at this small convenience store.
Yep.
It looks like it was hit by an EF1 or EF2 tornado.
Yeah, floods can be pretty dangerous as well.
Yep.
Apparently, it was just wind, but no tornado.
Image is cool and all, but we're here to talk about the heat.
Yeah.
So let's get to the actual interviews.
Well, about 12 o'clock last night, the lights and air conditioners went off. So we went outside to where we thought it'd be cooler, but instead of being cooler, the temperature is about 100 degrees, and just like a hot blast of air out of the oven hit you in the face when you went out there. It's so hot, you couldn't stay out there. And I called the electric power company and was telling them about how strong the wind was and the power was out. And JD, what?
Well, our crew that started down here, they reported back to me on the radio that it was so hot in the truck and they thought that the heater was on. So they checked the heater to make sure the heater wasn't on. How hot was it?
Well, it was over 100 degrees.
Was it hard to breathe?
Well, you couldn't hardly breathe. It's just like you stick your head in the oven. George and I went to the dock several times, about 3 times, and his car got hot. The water was boiling in his radiator.
Many people had an extremely difficult time breathing, and wet towels were used to cool the air around their mouths.
Yeah.
To relieve some of their breathing difficulties, especially...
Oh, damn. I don't know if I've ever had any experiences like that. Like, I know that when it comes to extreme cold, yes, it can be hard to breathe. It can, like, hurt, but... Maybe that does happen when it's very hot.
With young children and older adults.
Yeah.
Well, there was one woman that their little kid couldn't hardly breathe, and they had to put wet handkerchiefs on her
This, oh my god, his voice reminded me of Boomhauer.
nose so they could breathe, because the air was so hot that it nearly suffocates you if you didn't have a wet towel or something that could moisten air.
No, my god, I was resisting the urge to do a Boomhauer impression.
Ways to escape the heat during the event.
Yeah, we have these little cellars.
Seek shelter in a storm cellar, since temperatures were cooler underground. One local farmer actually opened up his storm cellar to almost 20 people.
What were your experiences during the storm?
Well, the wind kept blowing and couldn't sleep. And my
The
ears
wind-
were popping, so I just
Yeah, I bet that can happen, like with pressure differences.
thought I'd get up and go down to the storm house. Had a half bed down there and go down there and stay a while.
Yeah, a lot of people in these parts of the U.S. will often have like dedicated shelters and cellars and stuff in case of all of that.
Down there about an hour, and a lot of company came in. About 19, I believe, in all told.
I was still in bed in the house when they came, so I got up and joined the crowd.
Well, we raised the wind in our house, and the wind was so hot, I thought the house was on fire. So
Okay, so the wind itself was very hot.
we came over to Hokey's cellar, and I was the second one in there, and there he was in his shorts.
Another eyewitness of the event told their story on Reddit. I lived on a farm outside of Copperole when this happened. I was 9 years old, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night when our old window water cooler went off. It was eerily silent, and then the house...
The water was very deep. Would be fun enough if someone was to throw. I don't know if you would want that to happen, especially if it's like a flash flood. But I'm sure you're just talking about water in general rather than like a flood. But floods are very dangerous, so I wouldn't recommend swimming in them.
house was hit by a strong and hot wind. My father decided we needed to go to the storm cellar outside the back door, and we stayed in there for quite a while. Later, we saw the large advertising thermometer at Riddle's Bait Shop in Copperole had burst from the heat. On the news, we saw photos of someone's cotton field, and all the plants were
Yeah, in pools, I figured.
scorched. Very, very strange. Now, real quick, let's talk about that thermometer. In fact, let's
Alright.
talk about the 140-degree temperature, because nowhere in any of the interviews did someone mention 140 degrees. In fact, the only mention of an actual thermometer was right here.
I got up about
Okay, so no.
midnight, and it was so hot. I came out here to see just how hot it was. This thermometer was sitting on 100 degrees, and I think it got hotter than that afterwards.
I guess that could imply 140 degrees, but I'm not so sure. One primary source that did mention the 140-degree temperature was an article in the Clifton Record. The article was titled, "Freak Heat Wave Hits Lake Whitney."
Lake
By the way,
Whitney.
Lake Whitney is the lake that Copperole is located on.
Okay, yeah.
Tuesday night, residents in the vicinity of a lakeside village in Mooney Village experienced a freak weather condition that caused considerable damage and aroused fear among the residents. Intense night heat that generated destructive windstorms unroofed a number of buildings, toppling power poles and trees.
Yeah.
The temperature climbed to 96 degrees. The weatherman reported that the temperature must have reached nearly 140 degrees for a brief time in spots. Pressure dropped swiftly, and glass in the Mooney store shattered outward. A number of residents sought safety in a storm cellar.
Yeah, to comment on pressure, when it comes to how storms work, storms form whenever the atmospheric pressure is low. Whenever it's high, you get clear skies, but whenever it's low, because of that, I guess the way it works is that it causes water to evaporate more quickly and thus condense into more clouds and such. Or at least that's how I think it works. Don't quote me on that.
So that's all the evidence we really have for 140 degrees, but we do have some other evidence. Another more tangible piece of evidence might be the burned crops. A local farmer named
Oh, some crops got affected.
Pete Burns. Yes,
They got burned.
literally his last name is Burns.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Mr. Burns reported that his
Oh, his name is Mr. Burns. Okay.
cotton stalks had darkened and changed color, and that you could crush them with your hands almost
Damn, no. The wind was hot enough to literally cook the plants.
like as if it had been frozen in liquid nitrogen.
Really?
I plowed this cotton yesterday, and it was right pretty stand of it. Today, you can see it looked like a blowtorch had been run over it.
Damn.
In the same way.
So, see, yeah, it left. So, this 140-degree wind left physical evidence that wasn't destruction of property.
With the corn right across the road here, the leaves had all burnt off of it. We also cut some hay. Normally, it'd take about 2 days for it to cure, and it was cured overnight. We
Damn.
had such a hot wind. Bailing it now.
That must have been painful to have to feel.
This journalist
Was anyone's skin burned? If it burnt all the plants, then you would think that it could cause skin burns as well.
did a great job because he actually tried to record the sound of the crop breaking apart as if it was burnt. I think that's
Ah.
awesome.
And I guess that's what happened to it. It all wilted and burned.
Even earlier in the video, he filmed like a cinematic scene of a car pulling up to some damage, and then he switched to the two men walking out of the car. That's some pretty cool stuff. I love that. Since this occurred
Nice.
before the modern meteorological era, we really don't have any true data
Okay, so I'm guessing Doppler radar wasn't a thing yet,
that it actually got that hot. We have
or maybe it was a thing, but just not as widespread.
no data from the event. All we have are just little pieces of
Yeah, like from the sun. Yeah,
evidence like
yeah, skin burns are no joke in that case.
burnt cotton and eyewitness testimonies. I mean, clearly
Well, there's quite a lot of evidence that's more than enough evidence to suggest something like that really happened.
it got super hot out with the breathing difficulties and people trying to escape their houses because they thought they were on fire. This kind of environment does sound like it could really only happen in an extreme heat, like around the 130 degrees
Yeah, from
Fahrenheit
face and neck to shoulder. Damn.
rain.
Did your skin end up getting Did you have to peel your skin off at a certain point? Because I know that's something that can happen with sunburns. You have to literally peel it off like you're like a molting reptile.
Unfortunately, though, like I said, no proper measurements were taken at the time, so
Uh-huh.
no one truly knows how hot it actually got.
Yeah.
If only this event had happened today.
Let me guess. It has happened in recent memory.
Well, actually, a very similar event
A few days later. Oh, so we're getting a more recent example now in a place called Anita.
did happen much more
In Iowa. That's further north. That's a little further north than Texas, so...
recently. On August 23rd, 2011, the townspeople of Atlantic, Iowa were going about their day
Okay.
when suddenly the temps went up.
Oh,
A lot.
a lot.
But this time, it didn't happen in the middle of the night. No, it happened
In the daytime, so there was a lot more... when it's during the day, obviously more people are going to be out and about, and so it's going to be more well recorded.
in the late afternoon, early evening, around 5:55 p.m. Everything was chill. Everything was calm. The temp was 84 degrees. It's a
Okay.
little hot, but, nothing unusual. The
Yeah, 84 is pretty typical for like early summer or something like that.
dew point was 75 degrees, and the winds were near 5 miles per hour.
Yeah.
But within 5 minutes, the winds picked up to 20 miles per hour, and the temp went up to 86 degrees.
Okay, so there's another hot wind, I guess.
Okay, that's not too bad. Only 2 degrees.
I mean, that's a pretty big change in wind speed.
But then, 10 minutes later, around 6:15, the wind was
Okay.
blowing at a brisk 60 miles per hour.
60 miles. That's almost hurricane force. No, it's 60 miles per hour. That's a hurricane force wind.
And the temp continued to go up to 93 degrees.
90.
The dew point had also dropped to 54 degrees. So
Oh.
the temp went up about 7 degrees in only 15 minutes. But it wasn't over yet.
Okay, so there's more.
Over the next hour until 7:05 p.m., the temperature would rise even more, up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and the dew point plummeted to 7 degrees.
I wonder, damn, is there some sort of correlation? No, I wonder how that would work in relation to the dew point. Like, the dew point is the temperature at which, dew appears on grass and plants and stuff, that gets condensed, but that's strange that as the temperature would suddenly spike, the dew point would go down that much. Usually, as you can see, they're relatively, I don't actually know how dew point works, but for the dew point to be below freezing, or am I misreading this?
At this peak heat, the winds surprisingly died down to only 3 miles per hour. Within an
Okay, so the wind gust just disappeared.
hour, the temp went up nearly 20 degrees.
Oh
And
no.
the Iowans noticed.
Weird weather
Yep, okay, and here's a news source.
gets Iowans talking, and today our Eric Hansen found out that in towns all across southwest Iowa, people were asking, did you feel what moved through town just before sunset?
Yep. I know. So we have 80-degree weather. The wind starts to pick up, and then it gets hotter. It then eventually forms a hurricane force wind, and then it gets up to 120.
The temperature change.
I felt this heat rising up through the window, and I said to my husband, you need to come here.
It just felt like when you open your oven after it's been preheated. It was just
Yeah, I bet even a hair dryer. That's actually a hair dryer is a pretty good comparison. I wonder if that's exactly how it felt.
like that. It was just a gust of hot air, just exactly like the blow dryer.
As if you had just turned on a heater, and it was coming at your face.
With winds up to 60 miles an hour and
No,
plummeting humidity. But even crazier was how
Oh, the humidity went down too. Damn. So this was a hot, dry wind.
fast it left.
It was just a matter of minutes.
It just calmed down.
It was weird.
Oh my God.
Mother Nature's not happy with us.
At least they're making light of it, as weird as it may have seemed.
Everyone here in town knows exactly what it felt like, but no one really knows why it happened.
Of course, the great thing about this event
Yeah, this time we have like the Doppler radar, among other things.
is that unlike the Texas event in 1960, this time we had
Okay, so here we go. Yep, yeah, you see like the dew point and the temperature. I guess as the temperature goes up, the dew point goes down, and then the wind speeds, I wonder.
the data. Here's a graph showing the dew point and temperature over the time frame of the event provided by the Atlantic AWO.
Okay, so this was back in 2011.
There were also multiple other weather stations at
Okay, so others were reporting the same thing.
schools that recorded the anomaly. The temperature and dew point data collected from these various
Oh,
schools
some schools.
clearly show the temperature slowly rising and then a sudden spike around 7:15. They also showed the sudden wind speed increase. Clearly, the same phenomenon that happened in Corporal, Texas in 1960 appears to have happened again.
Only the difference is that in Corporal, it lasted for 4 hours, but this one only lasted a few minutes.
A lot of the language is the same as well. Like the air felt like the heat when you open an oven.
Yeah.
Like a hot blast of air out of the oven hit in his face when he went out there.
It just felt like when you open your oven after it's been preheated.
And clearly, I mean,
Oh, like, what's the year difference? It was from 2011, 60, that's like 50 years later.
clearly this sudden change in temperature was pretty impactful.
It was a big change, something that was extremely noticeable, not just minor.
This was like, I thought the house was on fire. I looked out
Yeah.
the window to see if there was something going on because it was so sudden and so obvious.
So what
Oh, imagine having to deal with that.
is going on? What is up with these micro heat waves?
Okay, so are we going to get the science now?
Well, meteorologists have actually figured out exactly what's going on.
Okay,
These
let's
two
see.
events were caused by a very rare meteorological phenomenon known as the heat burst.
Heat burst. Well, okay.
So what is a heat burst?
Let's
well,
see.
a heat burst is a sudden yet brief wave of very hot wind.
Well, yeah, but how does it actually work?
These occur when hot air lofted high up in the atmosphere, usually around 10 to 20,000 feet up, is
that's
suddenly
pretty
blown
high.
down to the ground in a very similar mechanism to another much more common phenomenon that you probably have heard of, the downburst.
Oh, so basically, like, you could see this downburst. This is a lot of very, very heavy rainfall. And I guess these heat bursts work on the same principle.
Okay, so with any thunderstorm, you have pockets of moisture, rain,
Yeah.
hail, up in the atmosphere, and this moisture
Yeah, thunderstorms, the cumulonimbus clouds are very, very big, and they go really high up into the atmosphere. I don't know if they're capable of reaching the stratosphere. It might depend.
then cools the surrounding air.
Uh-huh.
Cool air is denser than warm air, so it falls rapidly and
Yeah.
then can get flushed out onto the ground, for lack of a better term. Okay, but I just
Yep.
said cool air there. How does it occur with hot air?
Let's
well,
see.
in an extremely rare circumstance, the cool moist air that originated high up into the cumulonimbus cloud, as it falls, the rain and moisture evaporates, and as it evaporates, it becomes extremely dry, and then that
Okay. All right, so mature stage. At the peak of a thunderstorm, warm, humid air is ingested into the storm. Heavy rain tends to cool as it falls, right? And then the weakening stage. As a storm begins to weaken, hot air keeps rising. Meanwhile, rain starts to fall into a dry or drying subcloud air mass and evaporates. And then the dissipating stage. As the storm continues to weaken, cool air plunges downward, compresses, and begins to heat, reaching the ground as a warm wind.
air compresses, and that
But how does this explain what happened in Iowa? They said that it was a sunny day.
compression actually causes it to get super hot.
I guess it doesn't need a storm. I guess it doesn't need a thunderstorm to happen.
And then all that hot air just onto the ground. And then boom, you get a heat wave down on the surface. They usually occur when the parent thunderstorm is decaying, and they usually occur during the night. Let's go back to the Atlantic Iowa example and look at the data to see how this particular heat burst formed.
Let's
Here
see.
is a sounding chart, a vertical view of the atmosphere near Omaha around 7 p.m.
All
as the
right.
heat burst was occurring over Iowa. This line represents the temperature, and do you see how it suddenly gets hotter as it descends through the atmosphere?
I'm trying to read this.
It's heating up through compression. Here's a velocity scan of the high wind reported
Oh,
during the
here.
heat burst near Guthrie. Now this entire area likely got super hot, but it's believed that this specific high velocity area had the highest temperatures. Unfortunately, no one was actually in this area at the time to record the true top temp. So what are some other verified, keyword verified, we'll talk about unverified later,
Okay.
heat bursts throughout history. Well, the very
Let's
first
see.
mention of the heat burst phenomenon may have been in Georgia in 1860.
1860, so we didn't even have the kind of we were nowhere near that kind of.
A Scientific America
Yeah.
article, volume 3, 106, stated a hot wind extending about 100 yards in width lately passed through middle Georgia and scorched up cotton crops on a number of plantations.
Oh, just like what happened in Texas.
A hot wind also passed through a section of Kansas. It burned up the vegetation in its track,
There seems to be a pattern with it messing up all the plants.
and several persons fell victim to the poisonous blast.
Oh, so some people have died too?
It lasted for a very short period, during which the thermometer stood at 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay,
Sounds a
then.
lot like a heat burst. In
Yep.
terms of the record in swing in temperature, like the greatest temperature climb of a verified heat burst, that occurred during a heat burst in 2008 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Around 4 a.m. on August 3rd, 2008 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, during a thunderstorm, the wind suddenly picked up and the temperature went from 70 degrees
Okay, so there's a correlation between the temperature and the dew point in this kind of context.
Fahrenheit all the way up to 101 degrees Fahrenheit
101.
in only 15 minutes. It went up a massive 31 degrees. Around 3:45 in the morning, campers at Wall Lake contacted police to report strong winds and unusually high temperatures. There was
Okay.
also a significant pressure drop during the incident. And this is interesting because a major pressure drop was also recorded during the Copperell, Texas heat burst in 1960.
I bet that's just how thunderstorms work in low pressure systems.
In fact, one farmer during the event stated that his ears were popping.
Oh, okay. Now that actually does make sense if the pressure was that low.
My ears were popping, so I just thought I'd get up and go down to the storm house.
It was also noted that the windows of a local store broke outward due to the low pressure.
Oh, damn. So, all right. Interesting.
Probably the wind. I don't know. But
It's
as
probably the wind.
you can see, a similar pressure drop was recorded in Sioux Falls in 2008. And then the pressure quickly returned to its previous level as the storm dissipated. The highest verified temperature ever recorded during a heat burst was in Phoenix, Arizona on July 28, 1995, when the temp climbed from 106 degrees Fahrenheit to only 114 degrees Fahrenheit.
114,
So not quite 140. Also, this is kind of crazy, but one heat burst actually just occurred like last week, like as I was recording this video.
Oh no.
And doing research. Like one happened. There was a significant heat burst in Viewbank, Australia in the
Oh, this was in Australia?
midnight on January 9th, 2026.
And it went from, I don't know what the conversion to Fahrenheit would be, but that would be like between the 80s and the 90s.
The temperature went from 18
Because I know that like 40 degrees Celsius is a little above 100 Fahrenheit.
degrees Celsius at 2 a.m. to 36 degrees Celsius at 4 a.m. and then all the way back down to 18 degrees Celsius by 5:30 a.m.
I don't know if we've ever experienced anything like that where I live, not to my knowledge.
That's actually crazy. But if you want to talk crazy, then we should discuss unverified heat bursts.
Okay, let's
'Cause
see.
These really are crazy.
Uh-huh.
For example, apparently in Portugal on July 6, 1949, the temperature went from 38 degrees Celsius all the way up to 70 degrees Celsius
Oh, Lord have mercy.
in, are you
How
ready?
much is that in Fahrenheit? It'll probably be hot when you
minutes.
go there. Yeah. 2 minutes of whatever 70 is in Fahrenheit.
That's crazy. What? That's some extreme weather right there.
Yeah.
This was apparently possible because this heat burst just happened to occur during a significant heat wave.
Well, if there's a heat wave, obviously you're going to expect it to be hot, but for something to go that high up in temperature, damn.
One newspaper article at the time stated that the blast of hot air for the people encountering it felt like being licked by fiery tongues.
Yeah, I bet.
Does not sound pleasant at all.
I bet there was also, I'm assuming that there was a wind associated with it.
In terms of unverified heat bursts, the max temp ever recorded was an outstanding 188 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's almost boiling point.
Or
the boiling point in terms of Fahrenheit is 210 and it's 100 Celsius. That's almost boiling point.
87 degrees Celsius.
It wouldn't surprise me if water may have been low-key boiling.
Shade temperature in June 1967 in Abadan, Iran.
Well, obviously, in the Middle East, it's mostly desert, so you would expect it to have high temperatures.
That's wow. Apparently, and unfortunately, this event killed 12 men. So,
oh no.
So yeah, mystery solved. Now we know the mechanisms behind these so-called Satan storms. Did it really get up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit in Texas in 1960? Well, anything 140 plus kind of seems a little crazy to me, to be honest. They might have been exaggerating a little
We
bit.
don't know.
But I mean, clearly something happened. I personally believe it was probably around 130 degrees. I mean, the heat was
Who knows?
clearly substantial enough for the locals to make a big deal out of it. And it also lasted for so long. 4 hours?
4 hours. Yeah, and that one when in Iowa only lasted a few minutes.
It's not very typical of a normal heat burst. So there is still a little bit of a mystery
Who knows?
with that event. But overall, we have a good idea of what happened. The heat burst phenomenon is likely one we will encounter more in the future, and perhaps one extreme example soon will be fully documented.
Yeah, especially these days in the modern age of the internet, a lot of things it's very likely, more likely than you'd think.
And will finally break that 100-year-old, 136-degree heat record in Death Valley. Quick announcement, there's a new members-only video on megacryrometeors. These are large chunks of ice that mysteriously, randomly fall under blue skies. What is going on there?
That actually reminds me of this one time where me and my siblings were playing out back in we had like little sprinklers and stuff, when it was like the skies were clear, but then all of a sudden it started raining. And we were like, wait, where is this rain coming from?
Well, be sure to check out that video if you're a member. But yes, thank you.
All right, thank you for this video. That was very informative. No, we might have to check out more of this in the future, given my my childhood obsession with the weather. It only makes sense that I would want to look at more of this kind of content. But yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much for it. So make sure you guys check out his original video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And this video was streamed live on both YouTube and Kick. Be sure to check out the VODs for unedited footage as well. Take care.